Hi, welcome back. This is Adventures with Dr. Joe. I wanted to do this video for quite a while, flattening sharpening stones, because we know that sharpening stones must be flat or else the blade that we're using to sharpen won't be flat either. Now, what is a blade? A blade, like this plain blade, this surface needs to be flat, or at least the very tip flat. And a chisel must be flat. The back must be flat, and you can see this mirror polish here. I've achieved that by spending a lot of time flattening this back, but you only have to do it once, and then we meet the edge, meet the flat back with this edge and create a very sharp chisel. The chisel back must be flat because many times we're paring and we need to have the cutting edge right at the level of the back of the blade so that we can get into those tight corners, properly pare, shave things. Chisels, the back of a chisel must be flat. The back of a plain blade, classically taught, must be flat also. However, David Charlesworth has used what has been referred to as the ruler trick, where he'll take a ruler on the very edge of the sharpening stone and create this perfect edge right on the edge of the blade, which will then meet the angle of the blade to create that perfect edge. So that saves a lot of time because you don't have to go through this process to get the entire back a mirror polish. You can just polish the very edge, so that's been a big time saver. But regardless, let's look at the various types of sharpening stones and how do we flatten these stones properly so that when we take our tools to them, they will have the desired flat surface. The first stones that I want to discuss are ceramic stones. They are very, very hard. They're also referred to as man-made sapphire. When you purchase these stones from a company like Spyderco or Norton, when you read the instructions and the information, it says they're for fine honing, not coarse finishing, and they don't need to be flattened. They come flat. Well, yeah, they do, but yeah, sometimes they don't. And the frustration with ceramic stones is that they cut very slowly, so the sharpening process is very slow because the material that holds the sharpening elements in place doesn't break up very, very well, and these things do stay intact. So they're not fast sharpeners like water stones. And I wanted to see some stones to really see how flat they were, so I used a reference diamond stones such as this and flatten these stones. Well, they're pretty flat, but these areas you can see are low. This is the area that I've flattened, and here I flattened this side, almost the whole thing flat except this area. So these stones are pretty flat. Perfectly flat? No, not at all. And when you look at the ultrafine stone, it was pretty disappointing. Only this section here flat, none of this flat, and then you can see in the middle flat on both sides, but there's a central area, and that is not from sharpening. That's just the way it came. Spyderco does not like to give a grit measurement, but basically the coarse is about 600, the fine is about 1200, and the ultrafine is about 2000. So they're a little bit limited. They will stand up. They will stand up, but you have to understand that they're probably not perfectly flat and possibly not as flat as we'd like them to be. And that's why I moved from ceramic stones, because they were very slow sharpening and they weren't perfectly flat. And when I tried to flatten those on these reference diamond plates, I actually wore one out because, again, this is so hard. The only thing you can flatten these stones with is diamond because this man-made sapphire is so incredibly hard. So I wore a diamond plate out. All the abrasive is gone from it. It just basically wore down from these ceramic stones. Let's move on to the next family of stones. The largest family of sharpening stones are known as water stones. And the binder that holds the particles together comes off with sharpening, exposing new sharp particles of the stone itself. That's why the sharpening process is actually very fast and very effective. But because of that wear, they need to be sharpened, they need to be flattened frequently. So I've taken one of the stones and just drawn a pencil line on it, and we'll flatten this just to show how we can get this flat. Let's look at some methods to flatten sharpening stones, water stones. One, you can use glass, but not regular glass. This is float glass. Float glass is made when molten glass is poured onto a bed of mercury. Mercury is a metal, liquid at room temperature, and mercury is extremely flat. So the float glass, as it cools on the mercury, assumes the flatness of the mercury itself. Now, mercury, is it flawlessly flat? No, but basically that mercury bed or that mercury bath has the flatness that's equivalent to the curvature of the earth. So, you know, it's pretty darn flat. We have a little plastic laminate that can be put on the glass to protect it, and then we can use a variety of abrasive grits to cover the surface of this, beginning with a very coarse 9D and moving up to 220, 400, and even 600 grit. And that's a nice way to treat this. We can also use a very highly flattened machined metal plate that is extremely flat, and the powders can be used on this as well. Or we can use a diamond plate, which comes from the factory, extremely flat. So here are the marks that we put on the stone, and these can be flattened either dry or wet. And so you can see we're flattening this pretty nicely, and we got a touch bit left in the middle. And there, the writing is gone. This is now a flattened water stone. So that's a good way to do it. The other methods with float glass or a metal reference plate work very well also. In addition, you can use sandpaper on a known flat surface. Let's investigate that. Again, we can use a diamond reference stone. This one is made by DMT, Diamond Manufacturing Technology. It's very flat over the entire surface of this magnet. This has been read at less than plus or minus 5/10,000ths of an inch in flatness, so very, very flat. Also, a reference plate such as this granite plate is extremely flat. This was purchased from Enco, and when they have free shipping, that's when to get these things. They're ridiculously heavy but extremely flat. And then we can use self-adhesive sandpaper to put on here, use this to flatten our stones. It's also great at flattening the base or the sole of a hand plane, and you can use a variety of grits of this, which will really sharpen it up. Here's another option. All of us doing woodworking have some machine that has cast iron plates that have been surfaced. They've been surfaced with a surface grinder typically, and they're actually very flat. Flawlessly flat? No, but flat. Probably in a situation where we don't have any other reference surface, this would be okay. You can apply self-adhesive sandpaper to this, flatten your water stones. You can even flatten the base of your hand plane and things. This is an alternative, but be careful, don't get any water on it because severe rusting can occur. This is cast iron, but this is a backup option. My methods for sharpening have evolved over the years, and currently I find the best thing for me has been using these glass stones by a Japanese company named Sharpening, S-H-A-P-T-O-N. And they come in a myriad of grits from very, very coarse to ultra fine, up to 30,000. I have a 1,000, 6,000, and 16,000, and when I start to sharpen my chisels, hand planes, other things, it leaves the black mark of the metal being laid down on the stone. And using water, I will use this plate, which is made by Sharpening, extraordinarily flat, and it really does deliver a very, very flat surface again to the stones, and then you can continue on with your flattening. When I sharpen tools, if they're really in rough shape, I'll begin with a 300 grit diamond stone such as this, and I spray this trend lapping fluid on it, which works really nicely. If this gets dirty, you can use this little eraser to get rid of the metal on it and start over. When I use these stones, I use water with Honrite Gold in it. Honrite Gold is nice because it inhibits rusting. You can get a little mold in your water, which is no big deal. It's just weird looking. But this water with Honrite Gold is great. If I have a tool in bad shape, we'll start with 300, go to 1,000, 1,000, 6,000, 1,600 to get that absolute mirror polish. So this has been my evolution in flattening, sharpening stones. My favorite currently are these Sharpening stones. They cut very quickly. They're very easy to bring back to true with the Sharpening flat surface. You could also flatten these stones with a diamond reference plate. You could certainly flatten them on a granite reference plate, etc. But this has worked well for me, and this is currently my go-to method. Well, thank you for your attention. Enjoy sharpening techniques. Get that stone flat, because if it's not flat, the tools won't be flat. Some people believe you can take two stones and rub them together. They'll go flat. No, they're not going to necessarily be flat. Their surfaces will match each other, but one could be convex and the other concave. So two stones rubbing together is not enough to get a flat surface. With oil stones and other stones like that, possibly three stones always rubbed together with the same surface are going to be much better than that. But nothing really is beating the flattening of these water stones with either the Sharpening flattener, a really high quality diamond stone, or a reference plate. So again, thanks for your attention. Please comment. Look forward to speaking with you again. Stay safe.